this is the 4th grade ELA Milestones Data Overview for Graves Elementary. This data overview is intended for the Graves Elementary School teachers and administrators. This data overview is created by Kiana Fenderbrook, a 3rd grade teacher at Graves Elementary. The purpose of this data overview is to share how the 4th grade students at Graves Elementary have performed on the Georgia Milestones Assessment in reading since their opening in 2015. The goal is to have all students perform at the proficient level or higher. After analyzing the data, the school will be able to use the information gained from the overview to show the school's strengths and areas of growth to continue to help the students learn effectively. In the school's first year, the 2015-2016 year, 21% of the students in 4th grade at Graves Elementary scored proficient or higher, while 56% of the students in 4th grade at Graves performed developing or higher. That number increased in the 2016-2017 year, which was Graves' second year being open, to 34% are in the percentage of students scoring proficient and 67% to the students performing in the developing range. The first year at Graves, the 2015-2016 year, there were 157 students in the 4th grade. In the second year at Graves, there were 177 students in the 4th grade. The percentage of students who were developing or higher grew from 11% from Graves' first year to its second year. This is good progress, but there is also more room for growth. The percentage of students who were proficient or higher grew 13% from Graves' opening year to its second year. Just as with developing, although there was growth, the percentage of students who were proficient or higher at Graves in the 4th grade is very low. The percentage of 4th grade students performing at the developing level of the ELA milestones is significantly higher than the percentage of students performing at the proficient or higher level. The two groups should be near equal in percentages for both groups, especially with our goal being that our students be proficient on this assessment. Over the 2 years since Graves has been open, the school has made progress towards more proficiency on the ELA milestones assessment in the 4th grade. Hopefully, the trend will continue so that more students will be able to reach proficiency on the ELA milestones assessment in the coming years. Here is the data for how the 4th grade students performed on the 4th grade ELA Georgia milestones at the local, district, and state level. Graves is considered the local level, Gwinnett County is the district level, and Georgia is the state level. If you look at the chart, you can see that Graves, which is the local level, performs much lower than both the district and the state level. With only 21% of our students being proficient on this assessment, we are over 20% lower than the county and 15% lower than the state. In its first year, Graves Elementary's 4th grade students performed lower than the state and the district on the ELA milestones assessment. Graves' 4th grade students performed lower the second year as well, but they were slightly closer to performing on the same level as the state than they had been in the year prior. Gwinnett County, the district level, performs higher than the local and state levels constantly. In the developing range, although all 3 levels increased in the percentage of students who scored in the developing range or higher over the 2 years since Graves' opening, the sharpest increase has been at Graves. Now we will compare the data for the students performing in the proficient range at the local, district, and state levels. In his first year, Graves' 4th grade students performed lower than the state and the district on the ELA milestones in the proficient range as well. Graves Elementary's 4th grade students performed lower the second year too, but there was a significant growth from the first year to the second year. Gwinnett County, which is the district level, is still performing higher in the proficient range than both the local and state levels. Similar to the developing data for the 4th grade ELA milestones growth over the 2 years, all 3 levels in the proficient range grew as well. with the sharpest increase also being at Graves again in the proficient level. This is the data for how the 4th grade students at Graves Elementary are broken into the different student groups. The data shown on this chart shows that the majority of the students at Graves in the 4th grade are economically disadvantaged and ELL. So those percentages represent more of the whole of the 4th grade population at Graves Elementary. We have the least number of students in the 4th grade that are gifted. The data shows that the students who are gifted score significantly higher than the other groups, although they are the smallest subgroup of students in the 4th grade. The data also shows that students with disabilities scored significantly lower than the other groups of 4th graders. Almost all groups show students performing much lower on the proficient level than in the developing area, which is an area of concern. The female students scored higher than their male counterparts, most significantly in the percentage of students who were proficient or higher. This is the data for how the 4th grade students at Graves Elementary performed broken into ethnic groups. The data shows that the lowest percentage of students scoring in the proficient range belong in the African American ethnic group. The highest percentage of students scoring in the proficient range are in the Asian ethnic group, with 100% of the students performing in the proficient range. The overwhelming number of students at Graves are Hispanic, with 135 students in the 4th grade, with the number of African American students being a distant second with only 33 students who are Black. Far off from that, there are 6 Asian students and 6 white students, and only 1 student that is 2 or more races. This data shows that the overwhelming number of students at Graves are Hispanic, and many of them are also English language learners. The races with the highest percentages of students also have the lowest number of students in the 4th grade at Graves Elementary. Although there are significantly less African American students than Hispanic students, they are the lowest performing ethnicity at Graves Elementary in the 4th grade. They are also not language learners, so this is something to take note of and think about later. After analyzing the data, our school has the following areas of strength. Graves has had growth in the 4th grade ELA milestones each year since they have been open. Graves Elementary is not far behind the state average in the percentages of students who are performing on the proficient and developing levels on the ELA milestones assessment. The gifted students at Graves are performing well on the 4th grade ELA milestones assessment. Along with our growths, Graves also has its weaknesses. Students in the African American ethnicity are performing at the lowest level of all the 4th grade students on the ELA milestones assessment. This is particularly an area of concern because we have to think about what supports are there for our Black and African American students who don't get the additional ESOL supports and things like that. Graves is also performing lower than both the state and the district on the 4th grade ELA milestones assessment each year. Over the 2 years at Graves Elementary, the majority of students in the 4th grade are not performing on the proficient level, which is a huge area of concern. As a school, we have to decide where do we go from here. How can we address the low proficiency rate overall at Graves Elementary on the 4th grade ELA milestones assessment? What can be done to help close the gap among the African American and Hispanic students compared to the other ethnicities? And how can we push the developing students into the proficient learners?